probably starts at my understanding of the importance of belonging. So a lot of that goes back to me just stumbling upon Brene Brown's work, right? And she does a lot of talking about the power of vulnerability and sort of this power and the human need for belonging, the innate human need for belonging. And so, yeah, everything changed for me in the middle of 2020, right? As a lot of people,
Hmm.
but I think particularly like the day I found out about George Floyd's murder, I think the human in me was it just busted through the professional that kind of contains that human.
Hmm.
Like I think we so many of us go to work and we feel the pressure to fit inside these boxes that we think of as professionalism, right?
Hmm.
And that there's all sorts of ways of being, and yeah, I think we are ourselves as professionals, but there's also to a large extent some kind of suppression of our humanity in the for underrepresented individuals, whether you're a woman in a profession, whether you're LGBTQ, whether you're a black man in places where we typically aren't, the sort of picture that's held up as a professional maybe even further from where you are and who you are, and it may require you to fit in a box that feels even smaller. And so I found that to be the case for me, and I didn't realize I had kind of contorted myself to climb into this box, right? Until the person who was inside of that box like just forced it. Like, so I learned of George Floyd's murder at work. I learned of the whole kind of Christian Cooper and Amy Cooper incident, and there had been this litany of black men getting killed up until that time, like Ahmaud Arbery, and you had Breonna Taylor, a black woman getting killed. And so I think the cumulative effect of that just got through, and I found myself in tears, like watching that in my office, right? So I'm at work, just in tears, and kind of stuck. And so I think the first thing I did was just sort of write up, like kind of how I felt. Like I was angry, but then like there was this mix of me probably needing to be professional and kind of figure out what to do with that anger. Like it was my responsibility to kind of figure out like what do I do with this. And so I think I even wrote something, and this is all just on a Word document. I think just about me trying to figure out what I'm going to say to my daughters when I get home. I think I said something like, I try to, I'm wondering what I'm going to say at the dinner table tonight, because I try to instill like a sense of hope and optimism about what the world is and what we all represent to my daughters. I have no idea what I'm going to say tonight. Like I just said, like I probably will end up sitting there and just seething quietly. Like I should meditate and I should feel better and all this stuff, but I don't have it today. And so I said that, and then I ended up like something in me just I hadn't posted. I was very kind of scarce on social media, and rarely posted anything anywhere. But I posted that on Facebook, and then something told me I really didn't post anything on LinkedIn, particularly professional or sensitive. But like I put that on LinkedIn also. It just said I needed to feel heard on that. And this is one of the few forums that I have, so I'm putting this out here, and like that got like 20,000 views and all this like all positive response, and like I didn't expect anything. I was literally just kind of putting out there how I felt, and so for me that was the first time I realized like, oh God, it's like there's power in sharing our stories. There's just transformative power in people. I assumed that either everyone felt like this or it would be pretty obvious, and this is just me kind of going, this is how I'm experiencing this. So that was that. And then I ended up, I think, writing an open letter after that to the quietly bothered about kind of what the fact that like I think we were like, I felt like we were on the brink at that time, right? Like we were like it was truly a time when we could have gone to an even darker place
Yeah.
than we came to a lot of 2020 in. And so I wrote that letter, and started to have friends calling me, asking me kind of what should I do. And what I was saying to them is like just a lot of particularly white friends calling me and asking what they should do. And my recommendation was just call a friend, or if you have a friend, call you and listen to like ask them about who they are and how they're doing. Ask them about tell you a story, not a theory, but a story about how they've experienced racism in the past, and then ask them a story about an ongoing burden that they hold related to racism. And a lot of that was because like by this time at this time there was kind of this explosive energy, and what I kept hearing was this Martin Luther King quote, "Writing is the language of the unheard," which I totally agree with. But like I was wondering, why don't we hear the unheard? Like why don't we like, so if writing is the language of the unheard, this is an explosive sort of frustration about the fact that people are feeling unheard or unseen. Why don't we start by trying to hear the unheard? And so that was the suggestion I was making to people. I made that suggestion to a colleague. And he turned that on me and asked me to tell him some stories. It ended up being such a powerful interaction and conversation with that colleague who was in tears, and he emailed me or sent me a text that night and said like, I think you should share this with others. And so I recorded something, and it took me probably a week to get it out because it was so it felt so vulnerable to kind of put anything out into the world as somebody who just hadn't done that it took me some time to get it out. I got it out, and I'm really glad I did. It's ended up just really creating some powerful conversations. I've been now talking to individuals, talking to companies about how they impact generally. So first, how to have these healing conversations, how to heal, how to hear, how to hear, how to excuse me, how to heal with hearing and with empathy, but also uh, 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 kind of zooming out and thinking about how to engage with our impact generally and how to sustain that impact. So part of what I've been talking about is allowing ourselves to grieve and feel the grieving of what's missing, spending time envisioning and re-envisioning better after allowing ourselves to grieve, exploring and examining what our kind of collective or individual superpowers are to create the change that we envision, and then thinking about micro steps. So like walking through this process of going from this deep hurt and getting in touch with that deep hurt and that deep kind of absence of the world we would like to see, getting in touch with the beautiful vision that pulls us forward, getting in touch with how we can bring that vision about, and then starting, like, how can I start? And that's this whole idea of 1% actions or micro actions. Um, and it's started me on a journey. So that's how I am. I've gotten into uplifting capital and helping people create experiences around impact. It's just been, it's been something beautiful for me.
Yeah.